Are you interested in making felt cords, aka felt ropes? Would you like to see my favorite way of felting these, which is guaranteed to make a strong cord with a smooth edge? My name is Nicola Brown and I live at Clasheen in rural southeast Ireland. My focus is on developing a sustainable textile practice, and during this video I share with you my favourite way of making felt cords. This technique of laying out a rectangle of fibre and rolling it on the diagonal was taught to me by wonderful Australian artist Anita Larkin. The cords are brilliant for felt jewellery, for creating tails for hanging felt pods, or in the case of this particular video, I actually wanted to make felt cords to use as a handle for a simple felt bag. This would ultimately be eco-printed, and if I'm making felt to eco-print, I work in white natural undyed wool. Let's go. Lay a rectangle of wool 74 centimetres by 28 centimetres, one layer with all the fibre going in a vertical direction. Place your dry hands on top of the wool and just give it a gentle rub to help encourage the dry fibres flatten and work together very slightly. If you feel any areas are lighter or weaker under your hands, just top these up with more fibre. Again, all the fibre going in a vertical direction. After you've given the rectangle of wool a brief rub and topped up any weak areas, it's time to add embellishing fibres. I'm using tencel for my embellishments on this cord, and I pull a piece from my tencel roving and I just tease it out a little bit. But the interesting thing with these embellishments, they are going to go in a line near the very, very top of my rectangle, on the underneath side of the rectangle in a line. And because of the way I will be rolling this cord, those embellishments are going to end up on the outside of the cord. Once the embellishments are added along this portion of the layout, I am ready to start rolling my cord in a diagonal from one corner to the opposite corner. And by doing this, the fibres are not going to end up all vertical. They're going to sort of cross over each other, and this makes the cord very, very strong and it doesn't have any kinks in it. I sprinkle the rectangle with a light sprinkling of pretty hot water. At this stage, there is no soap in the piece, so please don't add soap to your water. Just sprinkle the rectangle with a light layer of water, and then we're going to roll it up. Once it's rolled up, I then add soap on the outside. By keeping it soap free for the rolling up stage, it helps make the cord more round and it doesn't flatten it so much. Starting at the bottom corner, I start rolling the wool, and remember that the embellishment is at the upper edge. As I go along, I'm tucking the whole package or the whole cord in with my fingertips. Now, the angle that I roll this at determines the final thickness of the cord, and only by experimenting are you going to actually find out what you like best. But I would say this is at approximately a 45-degree angle. As I continue to roll the cord, I can now see the embellishing fibres starting to become visible. They're basically wrapping themselves on the outside of the cord. If I feel that there's some area under my hands that is getting a little bit too thick, I can adjust the angle that I roll at, but overall just stick with the same angle the whole way along the length of the cord. If you feel you're getting value from this video already, please hit the like button, consider subscribing to my channel and hitting that bell for future tips, techniques and advice from my studio. Once I have the whole length rolled up, I'm going to start working the cord, but only pushing very, very, very lightly on the wool and working it away from me all the time. The reason for this is I don't want the cord to open and the embellishing fibres to come off. Everything is very delicate at this stage, but I can now start to add a little bit of soap onto my hands and then continue to roll the cord away from me. Don't be alarmed if you think it's not going to come together. It will actually very quickly. So gently, I'm rolling it away from me, soapy hands, lifting it back towards me and basically adding the soap on the outside of the cord with my hands. I continue to add soap to the outside of the cord very gently to form a skin on the outside. The inside is still squishy, but the important thing now is to try and keep the package or the cord round, not to flatten it. Keep rolling it away from me on top of my piece of bubble wrap. And eventually I will be able to start rolling it back and forwards. So just do this stage gently. This will take a few minutes, but it's surprising that suddenly you'll discover the cord has come together. Sometimes the ends can be slightly more difficult because there's less fibre there. So I just rub them against the bubble wrap very gently. Please be aware that when I make the cords, I'm not putting pressure on at this stage of the process, or this initial rectangle of wool is going to actually flatten down like a piece of flat felt. Just continue to rub soapy hands on the outside of the package, and pretty soon you're going to feel the cord getting firmer. At that stage, if you want to add a little bit more water as well, you can, but you can now rub back and forwards on your bubble wrap. Continue like this, keeping the cord as round as possible. Plenty of soap on your hands, and pretty soon you're going to feel the cord getting that bit firmer under your hands. Remember, those ends need a little bit of extra attention to prevent them getting too flat. When you are sure that the cord is getting rounder, you can roll it back and forwards in your bubble wrap, although I find often that it's easier just to roll directly on it with my hands on top of the cord. So that's what I chose to do primarily for this particular cord, and because it's getting firmer under my hands, I can now actually apply more pressure. Still gentle, but it's getting firmer and firmer. I'm putting more pressure downwards as I feel the cord starting to firm up. I always find when I'm doing this process, just when I think it's taking me forever, suddenly everything comes together really well. And I can now put significant pressure down on my hands. And the cord is starting to feel beautiful and firm under my hand. There's still a little bit of squishiness, but I can really feel that I can be quite firm to achieve the best result. From rolling up the cord, wetting and soaping it, it's taken approximately 10 minutes to get to this stage. I can now rub it really aggressively on my bubble wrap, keeping it nice and soapy, and I just keep doing this until I'm happy with the firmness. I then take the cord off the bubble wrap, give the table a wipe, and I'm ready for the final shaping and finishing. As with all my felt, I enjoy working in a tea towel for the final felting and shaping stage. So I'm just going to lay this damp tea towel on my wooden table and roll the cord up in this as opposed to rolling it up in bubble wrap. And then putting loads of pressure down, I just go back and forwards against the table. I'm not afraid that anything is going to come apart now, and it's obvious when I remove the towel. You can see how the piece I've been working on is of a narrower diameter than the other end. I work the end of the cord in particular within my hands, although I can do that the whole way along the cord. But another nice way of finishing a cord is to put it into a little bamboo or a reed blind. So I'll just show you how I would do this, either against the table or picking it up in my hand and rubbing it back and forwards. So finishing your felt is something that you begin to get a feel for, and you begin to identify ways that you personally enjoy finishing your pieces. You could make the whole cord on a larger bamboo mat, but I did it on bubble wrap here because that may be what more people have access to easily. So when I'm very happy with the cord, I will stretch it, I'll pull it, I'll make sure it feels firmly enough. I start to just turn it into the end shape. I will now remove the soap from it, but if I was to use this as a bag handle, I might be tying a knot in it, so I just make sure that I can do that. And I just give it a final shape, give it a good rinse, and then I will allow it, after I have rinsed the soap out, I will allow the cord dry in the shape that I want it to be used. I hope that makes sense, but this is important for me. So allow the cord to dry in the shape that you're intending the final use to be. If you're interested in participating in an online or in-person workshop with me, I've added a link to my workshop mailing list in the video description below. I also post regular updates here on my YouTube channel, so consider subscribing to be kept informed of new tutorials, tips and advice from Cláisín. Until next time, over and out.